Hi, and it's time for Top Dice. Hi, welcome to Top Dice. I'm Aid. I'm doing a bit of a solo one today, so we'll see how it goes. I thought today I'd cover my top six fantasy role-playing games. Now, why six rather than 10? Interesting point. Well, once you get beyond five, I found it was getting a bit complex, a bit, well, is that better than that one? Do I enjoy that more? But I've got quite a definite top six. I'll show you some near misses as well, and I'll explain why they're near misses, and that will all sort of come out in the rest of this one. So we're going to start at number six and work down. Best way to do it. So number six, Advanced Fighting Fantasy Deluxe. It's based on the Fighting Fantasy game books. Now, I dipped into those way back in time, back in the early 80s, and enjoyed them. It was not something I spent a huge amount of time playing, but this is an amazing book. You can see how big and thick this one is. This one actually combines the actual core rules. You've got the game world, and you've also got the actual monster manual or the equivalent, and it's all in a single volume. So there's that one there. It's from Arion Games. Um, well worth it if you can find it. The system is a very simple D6 system. We've talked about this actually on a top per dice before, and it's well worth a look. So that is my number six. Good game, very recommended. Okay, next one. This will be more familiar to most of you. Fifth edition D&D. Now, why is it in at number five? Right, okay. It's a good core system. I enjoy it. It's out there. I do like the brand. I might not like other aspects of it, but I do like the brand. It's well presented, and also the game is very vanilla. So you can actually make it whatever you want. And this is the big thing with Dungeons and Dragons, and especially the latest incarnation actually of it. Um, it's not got hundreds and hundreds of which the coast releases. They release five, six a year, which is a bit different than the old school where they were releasing five or six a week at one stage almost. So that's what it felt like when I ran the game shop. It was just getting horrendous. But this is a very simple intro system. It gets people actually into role playing, which is a big thing for me. And it isn't actually bad at its core roots. It does what it says on the tin. It's a good fantasy role playing game. Yeah, the modules, etc., need a bit of attention with it. You need to do a bit of work with it, but you can do so much with it if you decide you want to. And it's a good, ordinary, as I keep saying, fantasy role-playing game. So, fifth edition D&D, that's in at number five. Next, Chivalry and Sorcery in at number four for me at the moment. Now, I've just got the basic rules actually here. I have the bigger rules behind me. The reason being, it's quite simply the easiest version for me to actually hold. The big rule book is a difficult one. It's heavy, it's huge, and it's again well worthwhile. It uses a percentile system with a D10 crit dice. The system at first glance looks a little bit complex, but again, we've done a video with Steve Turner about this, and he's explained the system as well in there. But it's a good, solid, classic, old school role playing game. Is this one? Again, recommended. It's become very British, and it's also very different than the earlier versions. It's very medieval fantasy, and that's another big push for this one. It's European. There's a lot of historical content actually in there as well, but it's also very, very playable. If you want to have a go at this, then basic rules is possibly a good way to start rather than the full-blown hardbacks. that will give you a darn good taster, and it doesn't cost that much actually on Drive-Through RPG as a printed product. It's great. It's nice. Um, if you want to actually try it in person, there's the Dudley Bug Bowl, which happens in February every year. We will actually be pushing that on the UK tabletop role-playing channel. So again, that's that one. So that's in at number 4. Now, whilst we're here, before we hit to number 3, please click subscribe because it helps us grow our channel. We are basically the voice, the channel of the UK tabletop role-playing group on Facebook, and we're here to talk games. And we're not professionals. We do it because we enjoy it, but also allows us to sort of push quite a few of the indies and give them a bit of a space on the old YouTube. Okay, right, number 3. Right, I've got 2 at number 3, quite simply because they're it's quite similar games. Right, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. There we go. 2 versions of it there. I've got another version, first edition, sort of behind me on the shelf. Absolutely classic British fantasy game. The latest version uses just a D100, and it's Cubicle 7. I prefer in some cases aspects of that one and the first one, but you know what? That's the one that's out there at the moment. That's the one you will actually find easiest to sort of get into. The Enemy Within campaign they've released is absolutely stunning. It is a D100 system, as I said there. It's glorious artwork throughout, and it's very, very, very high spec. I'm actually going to be running this tonight for my family group. So again, there we go. That's number 3. Reminder, there's both together. There we go. Now, number 2. This one might come as a bit of a surprise to you. Dungeon Fantasy role-playing game. Now, this is Steve Jackson Games, not the Steve Jackson from Fighting Fantasy, but the Steve Jackson of GURPS fame. And it uses the GURPS system. Give you a quick look at the back so you can see what's in the box. There's loads now. I've got loads of extra supplements and things in here as well. Basically, it's a D6 fantasy system again. It's powered by GURPS. So if you've played GURPS, which is the generic universal role-playing system, then you will find it very easy to pick up. It's geared just towards fantasy. You can add to it by playing or getting GURPS Fantasy, which will really sort of add content to it. But as it stands, it's a very, very solid, great game. It's very visual. There's maps and all sorts in there, dungeon sort of dressings. There's characters, stand-up characters. There's adventures. There's all sorts in that box. That was a Kickstarter from quite a few years ago, and it's still being pushed and developed today by Steve Jackson and other partners. As an intro game, worthwhile, very, very worthwhile. It's not easy to get over here in the UK, or you don't tend to find it is that easy. If you do see a copy and you quite into your dungeons and your fantasy or like GURPS, it's a must. Pick it up, absolutely brilliant. Right, number 1, what could it possibly be? We're back with Dungeons and Dragons, this time advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So here we go. I've picked up the 2nd edition version actually there. So this is going back into the mists of time, really. This was not the first game I played as in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but it was certainly one of the earliest incarnations actually sort of it. I started with 1st edition on the D&D, well, on the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons side. I started with OD&D, the original Dungeons and Dragons back in the day, but this is probably the game line that I have ever played the most and also run the most. I had numerous campaigns and games running from 70s right up to the 90s, and spent many, many, many happy years running Greyhawk. Rather than Forgotten Realms, it was Greyhawk that I actually sort of ran, and Blackmoor as well. So the original game worlds, with dipping into other areas as too from Judges Guilds, such as City State of the Invincible Overlord. But they were absolutely amazing. Lots of supplements came out for this. It became absolutely bloated, but at its core, this for me will remain my number one. I suspect it might be something that comes along and blows it up, but for now, that's my number one. Right. Okay. Near misses. This is basically some that are almost there but didn't quite make it. Go behind me for this one, and I'll explain the reasons why. Okay, route. Reason this hasn't made it yet is because I've not had a chance to get it to the table. That's the bottom line with it. I will be doing. It looks really, really good. I've never played the board game. I've just got the actual sort of role-playing game. I got it. I got it cheap because it was supposedly damaged. I don't know where it's damaged. Not seen so, but I've given it a read through, and it is quite a fun family game. So that's one there that I will actually be looking at. It's looks like it's quite a simple system. It's got playbooks in there, so you can actually create vagabonds. You can create fighters. It's got quite interesting mechanics as well. So when I do get the chance to actually sort of run that, I will give a proper review of it. Next one, RuneQuest. Now, I'll pull this off the shelf because it's easier than the full RuneQuest books. Now, RuneQuest second edition, I played quite a bit. Also ran quite a bit as well. I've got the new version on the shelf over there, and they are big, heavy books. So that's one of the reasons why I picked them. Now, RuneQuest, looking at the new ones, it's fully compatible. I've got Parvis and quite a few other things actually on the shelf there that I can use with it. And at some stage I will, but it's been that long since I've actually physically picked it up and run it. So that's the reason why this is a near miss. But it's a D100 system. It's one of Chaosium's originals. Games Workshop did actually print a version of it over here back in the day, and it was very successful, and it had some very, very interesting content as well. So yeah, RuneQuest was a near miss. Final near miss. Now, the reason again why this is near miss, Pendragon. I'm still awaiting the new books. I've got the older versions on hand, and I've got the Great Pendragon campaign ready to go. But again, I've not got this version to the table yet, and it's been a long time since I've actually run it. I'm quite excited about running this at some stage. I've decided to hold back until Player's Handbook and the Grey Knight comes out before I do tackle it. I have played the solo version in there. That was quite fun, and I can see that sort of moving up the scales into the top six, basically. But we'll see how it goes. Proof is in the pudding when you do actually play it. So there we go. That's my top six plus near misses of fantasy tabletop role-playing games. I'd love to hear your comments about it. Please click subscribe, click like if you like, and do comment though about what yours would actually sort of be. And if you want to get involved, if you want to join us on the channel, that's Chris and myself, or just me, or just Chris, come and talk to one of us, and we'll bring you on for a chat. We've regular coffee breaks that we sort of use and bring up on this, and we just enjoy the games. So keep rolling the dice. I hope you managed to sort of get a game in today. Thank you very much for listening, and see you soon. Take care. Bye.